Welcome to the Disobedience podcast. Today I have Leon Vanderviver and Paula Barca joining from. Where are you guys joining from?
I'm in Madrid right now.
I'm in Cape Town, South Africa.
Where were your most recent travels, both of you?
I just got back from Milan on Friday. Before Milan, I was in Rio for CARNAVAL.
Oh, Rio.
Got my phone stolen.
I've been in South Africa for the last 4 months, but I took a 1 month cruise ship from Europe to get to South Africa instead of flying. So that I saw a bunch of like 6-7 countries on that. But yeah, I've taken a bit of a break now for a few weeks from traveling. So a few months. So in South Africa now.
That's wild. Like Leon in one place.
It is refreshing, but then, the travel bug hits again and you want to go. So.
Paula, I wonder what's keeping him in one place. I'm just.
I wonder what it could be. Because in theory, we're supposed to be in Vietnam, but.
They still haven't lifted the visa restrictions, so it's still not about that. I check every day.
Oh, man. When Leon says he checks every day, he really probably does check every day. I remember you pulled out that flight app where you were like, I can see which flight is flying over my head because I have a subscription to this app.
Yeah, exactly. Small things and small minds.
Actually, that's not true. I feel like you both strike me as like highly ambitious people, even though one other commonality is you're super laid back and like love partying and just like having a good time. And right now you guys have like very similar glasses, which is like also stunning. Great. I feel like I'm missing out.
This was a mistake and I can't find the contact lenses, but it will never happen again.
No, it's all good. What kind of inspired your love for world travel? Were you always this way, or is this something that started like maybe after adulthood?
Yeah, I can jump in. So my parents both are journalists and they traveled a lot. So the first time I went overseas, I was 12 though, so it wasn't that they kind of wanted us to appreciate it. So they traveled a lot before we were born, and then when we were born, they kind of took my brother and I. They took a bit of a break and then took us for like a 3-month trip through Europe, and that kind of got us hooked. And from there, it was just always trying to find something else. And I think if you see the world as like almost a playground, and all the different countries, it's like all the parts you can explore. That's kind of it for me. So that's what I try and spend most of my money on. But Paula, yeah.
I'll get to the money management later because I feel like we all have very interesting ways of investing our disposable income. But Paula,
definitely. Well, I mean, given that like I was raised in Miami, but like my mom's family lives in Puerto Rico and my dad's family like lives in Spain, like we've always traveled a lot in the sense of like we always went to go visit family. Like we had to go to Spain to go see grandmother and cousins, then we'd go to Puerto Rico to visit that side of the family. So there's always like that kind of traveling, and I think it just got to a point where I was like, I'm doing the same trip every year. And by the time I was like 17, I was just like, I want to see something other. Like it probably sounds super pretentious, but I was like, my grandma's really tiny village with 3 cows is super cool, but I would like to see other places. And then I studied abroad and just pretty much was like in Paris Monday through Wednesday night, and then would hop on the earliest flight possible Thursday mornings and come back on the latest flight possible on Sundays. And because Europe has pretty cheap plane tickets, I got to see, I would say, most of Western Europe, which was really nice. And then I decided to expand outside of those 2 continents.
But that's like such a stark difference from where you went to university, though. Like, I feel like your university town is like very small, and like, I don't know, I think like Brown is pretty small.
Yeah, Rhode Island was like a good sized city in my opinion. Like there was stuff to do, there was stuff you could do off campus. Like had a friend who went to school in South Bend, Indiana, and like there was Notre Dame and then the women's college next to Notre Dame, which was just, it was Notre Dame. Like that's all you had. You had football, and like there was not much else. Like, but it wasn't as big as like New York or Boston, where I also had a lot of friends who just kind of got lost in the city, so to speak. So it was a good mix, but yeah, definitely. But I feel that like, I mean, I live in Madrid, and Madrid's like the capital of Spain, but it's not a big city the way like New York is, or Tokyo, or like, it's not one of those like overwhelming cities. It has this kind of like small town vibe while having all the benefits of a big city of like good nightlife, good restaurants, there's cultural stuff to do, you have good connecting flights places. So I feel like I like that mix between like, I can't do country towns or like small towns, but I don't know if big places are too much.
Maybe for like short stints. Little reprieve. I think that's true of most capital city towns. Like Ottawa in Canada it's nice, it's beautiful, and there's a lot of that like 16th century architecture with stone buildings and everything. But would I want to live there permanently? Like, I don't think there's enough happening in Ottawa after coming from a place like Toronto. But I'm not sure if that's true of South Africa as well.
Yeah, I mean, our cities aren't particularly big. Like Cape Town, where I'm now, it's about sort of 1 million people, depending on how you draw the city lines. I think the difference here is because it is a developing country, some of the things you would find in capitals in Europe or like the US in terms of like a tech scene, you just don't find here on the same level. So for me, it's great to be here, during summertime, and but I think kind of long-term development, especially if you are into tech and that type of thing, I think that's when other world cities are a better bet. But our cities just aren't as big. Um, because we have a very big country. I mean, if you put South Africa on the map of Europe, it would go from Portugal all the way across to the end of Germany. So
That's
it's a big country.
huge.
Yeah. So
And you're encapsulating another country within South Africa as well.
yeah,
Right?
yeah, we do. Yeah, tiniest little Lesotho, which is interesting as well. But yeah, I mean, it's a massive country, and our population density isn't as high, so we don't necessarily have everyone stuffed into cities. But it's an amazing country with amazing people.
And we're so lucky to have met one of these amazing people, which is super exciting. One thing I will say is that this is maybe a bit pretentious of me to like speak for the three of us, but I think we all love love. Like we met at a wedding most recently. I think all three of us together. It was super cool. We got to go to a wedding in Barcelona for our friend Janelle, who we met through our company, and that's how we know each other. For the people who are listening who don't understand how these three random people know each other from across the world. We all used to work together at the same company. We just all found ourselves in Barcelona in like the most beautiful wedding ever imaginable, and I had zero expectations going into it, and it was at the most beautiful venue, and then we had that beach celebration, just like reminiscing on the photos. It was really good.
Yeah, it was also kind of very low expectations, and then we arrived there, and if you remote work, you don't have a lot of opportunity to dress up. So I had an opportunity to get into a suit for the first time in 2 years. And I remember this cathedral in the center of Barcelona where, we came out and all the tourists are looking at us, and you feel like you've made it in life walking out in your suit onto the streets, and the tourists are taking pictures of you. But it was incredible and really amazing story as well. Janelle and her husband. So it was great to be there.
Have you actually gotten a chance to talk to them since, Paula? I haven't had like a proper call with Janelle recently.
Well, I haven't had like a full-on call, but like we definitely still we Instagram DM each other. We're millennials. She actually might be coming for Holy Week because she's getting her passport renewed, so she might crash on my couch because she can't go anywhere until her passport's back. But since Spain and like Barcelona and Madrid are in the same country, she can pop over on a train. And also, Holy Week in Spain is insane. It gets so expensive. So she was like, I want to go somewhere, but I want to pay a lot of money. And I was like, my couch is free. So
this is my ignorance, but I don't know what Holy Week in Spain entails.
Oh, I forget that Catholicism and Christian, I know, but just living in a Spain that's so Catholic and so Christian, it's just Holy Week is this thing that everyone knows about. It's Easter Sunday, then you have Holy Thursday and Good Friday. Holy Thursday is this is the body of Christ, the Last Supper is what we celebrate on Holy Thursday. Then Good Friday is when he got nailed to the cross, and Easter Sunday is when he resurrected. So that entire long weekend period is vacation time for the Spanish people. But Spain being a very Catholic country, even though they say that they're not religious, blah, blah, the entirety of the South just goes insane. You have people carrying entire massive I don't even know what they're called in English or in Spanish, but statues of the Virgin Mary that you have to like carry from one church to the other, and it's like the biggest thing that could ever happen to somebody is like being chosen to like carry this this statue from like one part to the other. It's like a really big celebration. It's also like really big family time. People get together. But yeah, everything kind of shuts down here and everyone goes on vacation because you save holidays if you just take like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the rest are public holidays.
Okay, that explains it. Actually, I was in Tokyo recently, and it was my first time in Japan, or actually any East Asian country. Like I've been to India, but like nothing really else other than maybe Singapore when I was a child. So being there and like going into a little katsu curry restaurant run by like a single chef, and then him having pictures of him carrying like the Shinto shrine on his shoulders, and they do the exact same thing where it's this massive statue, and if you're chosen like part of the neighborhood to carry that thing, they have pictures and they're super proud of that moment. They're like, this is like such a big deal for us to represent the local culture. So I guess it shows up in different ways around the world, but like yeah, that makes sense.
Definitely. It's definitely a cultural experience, like to come and see it.
But then like is that a similar thing in South Africa where they have not necessarily like religious festivities, but something that's cultural that everybody partakes in?
Yeah, we do. I mean, we do have Easter coming up now as well. It's not as big, but it's a big sort of holiday. Also, public holidays that get combined, and people take a few extra days off, and then you can get a decent amount of vacation. We do. I mean, we have this Heritage Day, which celebrates South African heritage. We after the end of apartheid, we sort of added additional public holidays. Um, but yeah, I think for us, any sporting event is always a good excuse for festivity. But yeah, we do enjoy our public holidays. And over December, it's I feel everyone's just in a holiday feeling, and it's very difficult to get much done because it feels like everyone is either off work, or even if they're at work, it's very laid back.
This is going to be another ignorant question, but are the seasons flipped in South Africa, like in Australia?
So it's roughly the same as Australia, but yeah,
Okay.
it's flipped with like Europe. So you can, if you plan it. So I've been lucky; I haven't had winter for about I think 2-3 years. I've been flipping season because you can. Yeah, I mean it's a 10 hour flight from Europe, and you can switch from winter to summer. And I mean, we also our winters aren't as cold, so it's not as bad as you're here.
Is that must be like the best way to be working at a startup, is just like chasing the sun, just like making sure you're always in like summertime so that you
Yeah.
don't get those like startup blues when everything's raining outside.
Yeah, if you're sitting, on a meeting and it's already getting dark outside, it's much better to be in a warm country. So
I mean, we had one coworker from Finland and it looked like he was in nighttime
yeah.
24/7. Didn't matter when he joined.
I was there in February. It is nighttime a lot.
Yeah.
It makes me really
What
sad.
were you in Finland for?
Oh, I was visiting an ex-boyfriend who was studying there.
I really want to go to Finland. I feel like I would get along with the lifestyle there quite well. Paula's like, "Are you okay?"
Those are personal opinions.
But like, tell us how Rio was.
Oh, it was so much fun. I mean, it was overwhelming. Like, I'm interested to go back when it isn't Carnival. But it was a ton of fun. Like, they start practicing. Like, I got there at the end of January, and we already had, like, practice blocos going on. It's also a really interesting combination of, like, you have the ocean, and then you have mountains, and you go hiking. And, like, I went to the actual, like, parade of Carnival, and, like, the tickets are expensive, but so worth it. Like, the production of these samba schools is out of this world insane. Like, and they have themes and their own song and the dancing. It was so worth it. Even if, like, it's a lot of things, like, the city's just never quiet for, like, at least a week and a half, if not longer. It's just like there's always something going on somewhere at all times. But it was really fun. I had a good time.
Are we talking like expensive like Taylor Swift tickets or like Adele in Las Vegas tickets? Because we're talking like 600 to like $1,500.
No, even less than that. It was like $200.
Okay, that's doable.
Yeah, it was doable. It was a little painful, but it was doable. I was just like, okay, like after we paid the plane ticket and the Airbnb, like swipe another $200 on this, like, but it was worth it. It's just, it had come off the back of a lot of other trips, so I was like, oh, do we really want to do this? But so worth it.
This is a good segue into like how do we afford world travel? Leon's like, don't ask me, I haven't. Well, like, are you in your own apartment now, or do you have bills? Do you have admin, Leon, or are you still like?
Very little. I think that definitely helps. My fixed expenses. I don't have study debt. I managed to pay cash for all my studies.
That's really good.
Which was great. And don't have an apartment or a mortgage to pay. And so my only sort of fixed expense really is health insurance. But I'm currently in my brother's apartment. I do pay him rent, but it is very flexible, which is great. So that definitely helps. So I have very few long-term commitments. The other thing that helps, of course, is South Africa's cost of living is a lot lower. Our currency is not strong. It tends to get weaker as time goes on, which when you earn in a foreign currency is great. So that's definitely a help when I'm here. Otherwise, though, I mean, I've very often planned my trips around where I have friends, where I can crash, because accommodation, like once you're in Europe, for example, the actual transport cost between countries, it's very low, but your accommodation is the part that adds up.
Yeah, it was a rude awakening in Amsterdam to be like, oh, I'm going to be paying more here than anywhere I have paid in like the US, for example.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, that helps. And in general now, I also do tend to go to like trips that I plan now. I do check where I can stay in sort of more affordable countries. But yeah, having friends definitely helps, and not spending too much money on other stuff like having a car or.
But then the funny thing is like you don't spend on other things, but you've also like managed to get your, I mean, very big congratulations on your pilot's license. I think that's super cool. And like the last time we met in person, you still had I think 80 hours or something left of training, and that was kind of over. It was almost a year ago, I think.
Yeah. So just for some context, I basically did my training in 2 slots. I did it the previous summer in South Africa, and then I came back to finish it now and it's private pilot, so it's not commercial, not big planes. I can fly 4-seater planes, and I can fly friends and family, and that type of thing. I can't earn any money with it, but yeah, I mean, I went to land at like our second biggest airport in the country last weekend, which was amazing. So yeah, it's something I've wanted to do. It's definitely one of those expenses that has absolutely zero payoff or return on investment financially. Like this, not to do it as a career or something, but it's something I wanted to do. And yeah, what also helped is I had a study notes company at university, so I saved up some money from an actual company that I had during university, which helped pay for some travels as well. But yeah, not a smart expense, but I'm so happy I did it. And it's.
I'm curious to know like what is an unexpectedly like hard thing about flying a plane?
Actually, the radio work, talking to, I don't know if you've ever listened to any recordings of air traffic control, but it is like a foreign language. And you're on the same frequency as all the big planes. So when I was landing, I could hear the Emirates plane coming from Dubai, and they talking to the same people. And it's when there's so many small things you have to remember to do, like checklists and everything. It's, hundreds of sort of small things you have to remember. And then if it's, you have someone talking to you, telling you, I need you to turn right now. I need you to do this, that. It's a lot. But I think the main thing with flying is just you have to stay calm. As long as you stay calm, you can figure it out. But when you sort of freak out and you start doing things that puts you in a dangerous position or puts the plane in a dangerous position, that's where it gets a bit tricky. But it's like anything with practice, it becomes easier.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like there's the point when you're taking your driver's license where you're like driving with somebody in the car all the time, and then you like finally get to be behind the wheel by yourself, and you're like, okay, I'm terrified, and then it becomes normal after a while.
Yeah, exactly. I think you just become, well, it's just memory. It's basically just building up. And the thing with flying, of course, is though you have to build it up to a point where it's not something you can get right like 9 out of 10 times. And it's not like a car where you can just pull off next to the side of the road if something is wrong. You just have to make sure you get it, right 100% of the time. But it's muscle memory and getting a feel for like how the plane moves and feels when you do certain things.
Paula, imagine us flying a plane, just being like, "Oh, we need to pull over. I want to take a selfie or something." Oh dear. But then, actually, Paula, you had one of these like driving related experience, right? Because you went to Mallorca and rented a van.
Yeah, I was in Menorca the summer before last, because last summer was the wedding summer. I was supposed to go with a friend, but she got COVID and couldn't go. So it was just me and my camper van for like 7 days, which, don't get me wrong, love camper van. It was the best way to do Menorca, especially because it was that weird COVID summer where like there were still some restrictions. So like people were doing a lot of nature stuff and everyone flooded to Menorca because it's like less of a party hub type thing. But the beaches were packed. But you can sleep on the beaches if you have a camper van. So I would just like drive into a parking lot, sleep, and then I would wake up. But like everyone else has to wake up at like 6 a.m. to get a spot, or else like you can't get on because it's not these like really long string of beaches. It's like these little kind of like coves. But the car was massive, and I was still not the biggest camper van. So sometimes like two of us would meet, and I'd just be like, "Let's not scratch the car, please," because I don't want to have to pay this man more money. But it was so much fun. Just like by the end of it, I was really looking forward to talking to another human being because there was not a lot of cell service. So it was just me and my book, which I read 3 times because I was not prepared to go on this trip by myself. I was supposed to have somebody with me. And then I just had to like get creative with how to stay entertained on a beach other than napping.
I feel like this isn't the first time, Paula, where you had this like specific expectation of how a vacation is supposed to go. And then it didn't go exactly as planned. Okay, the specific thing that I'm referencing is like the extent Paula will go to if she thinks there's like if you're vibing with somebody and you know you're gonna have a good time, and then she'll like make it happen. I'm specifically talking about the point where you took a bus. I believe it was in Colombia
Oh,
or Latin America, and you were just stuck on this bus for 6.5 hours when it was supposed to be way less than that.
yeah, that was not, yeah, just like, I mean, but it happens in Colombia with buses of like, it's a tract that unknowingly to me until I arrived, that literally every single Colombian was like, why did you take it by bus? Like the plane is 45 minutes and super affordable. Like that chunk always says it's 4.5 hours, but there's a lot of like mudslides and the road is always under construction. And it literally, like, I left at 5:30. I was supposed to arrive at like 10. I think I arrived at like 1 in the afternoon. So yeah, it was an interesting experience, but you live and you learn. You live and you learn.
I feel like I just keep living. I'm not learning much these days.
I still buy super cheap buses and overnight buses because I'm like, but then I don't have to pay for like the luggage, and it was always fine in Mexico, but I did run into that little issue in Colombia.
That's fair. Which 2 cities were you connecting to?
Yeah, I was going from Medellin to Pereira, which is like in the coffee country area.
Yeah, straight through the mountains.
Yeah. Yep. I was like, don't look up the edge.
I was gonna say that's terrifying. Damn. All right. I wanted to switch it up a bit. I have a quick, like, not really a game, but just wanted to see your preferences on different things because I feel like you guys are similar but different in different ways. So this is a quick, like, either or. So I'm gonna say like apples or bananas, and you're gonna say which thing you prefer more. Okay. So just a few of these. Audiobooks or real books?
Real books.
Real books.
Remote job or in-person job?
Remote.
Remote.
Guys, you not miss people. Like, I feel like I could do with like a job that forces me to be at an office.
There's a big trade-off. I think remote is great if you can make up for the lack of people with like traveling, so you replace the excitement with something else. But definitely, yeah, I mean, we can go off on a tangent on this, but some trade-offs.
Yeah, I agree. I think if I were like physically in one place all the time, I would probably prefer at least a hybrid situation of like they'd be flexible, but like there was an office. But given that I really enjoy traveling, like I just find co-working spaces and I see humans like that.
Sometimes I don't talk to anybody. I like knowing that other people are existing around.
Yeah.
Okay, your own kids or friends' kids?
Friends, kids.
Yeah, definitely now at this point, friends, kids, because you can give them back. Like you can keep them when they're fun, and then you like.
I had a feeling there would be a consensus on that. Team sport or individual sport?
I was a big tennis player and field hockey player, so both. I'd say team sport. Because sport can get lonely. You're practicing for hours and hours. So team sport.
I might say individual.
Play any sport?
I do more of the artsy sports, more than like a sport type thing.
Wait, are you still doing aerial silks?
Yeah, I'm picking it back up now that I'm back in Madrid. I kind of let it die because I was traveling so much, and it's niche enough that unsurprisingly to anybody, it's kind of hard to find a place to do it in other parts of the world. But surprisingly, Argentina had a lot of them. I just didn't go. But yeah, I'm picking it up again now that I'm at least through June in Madrid.
All right. Next one is a cruise or a safari?
Cruise.
Really? I thought you would say
Yeah.
safari.
Yeah, South Africa is like the safari capital. Well, Kenya is probably, but South Africa is so popular. But I think when you grow up with it, it's I've seen lions. So it's once you've seen enough lions, you kind of want something different. And I love the ocean. I really want to get my scuba license. And I
Which
love
Paula
boats.
has.
I know. Yeah, we were gonna go diving in Vietnam, but anyway. Yeah, and the cruise I went on was 25 days, and I loved it. I thought it would go crazy, but it was amazing.
I got worried for you a little bit in like day 3 or something where you sent me a video of it was just like you in your little cruise cabin being like, another night, just Leon? And it was like you in your bed. I was like, oh no.
Yeah. Yeah, that was an unusual cruise because it was just so long, so it wasn't that normal sort of 3-day out of Miami or Mediterranean cruise. It was, a repositioning cruise, and it was basically just me and retired people who had the time to do it. So it was a very weird dynamic, but I think it was, yeah, I loved it.
But that must be like you must get a really intimate knowledge of the other guests who are also on the cruise with you because if you're spending a month with them, basically.
Yeah, and the crew members, because the crew they were a bit younger, so I would actually chat to the crew, and it's a really interesting lifestyle that they have, constantly cruising around the world. But yeah, it's I think some people might absolutely hate it, but I think if you can't stand your own company, then you can actually make a really great time out of it, because I had everything on board. It had a gym with a sauna. I didn't have to worry about food because I really dislike making food. So there was just nothing to worry about. Yeah.
I
If
don't
the
even
Wi-Fi was better, it would be the ultimate answer to remote working.
Okay. Makes sense. Well, this is kind of a dumb question in retrospect, but glasses or contacts?
Contacts.
Glasses. It adds to my look.
Actually, it's true. With Leon without glasses really confused me the first time I saw his like head shape, and I was like, something's wrong here.
It takes me from like a 2 to a 3 out of 10. So I need anything I can get.
You actually, without your glasses, you look way more like your brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, the resemblance is there, and then you put those on, and I'm like, you guys are different people. I don't know what the similarities are. Sunscreen or suntan lotion?
I'm getting old, so sunscreen. But you tan through the sunscreen. Like, you just want to prevent the wrinkles, but still get, like, bronze. Just perfect. I'm reaching the big 3-0. I need to take care so that people don't think I'm, like, 85 too early.
Yeah, I can't tan. I just turn this, like, shade of gray, I feel, and then it just doesn't work for me. So it has to be sunscreen.
I feel like you did get a really bad tan in Barcelona, or like a little bit of a burn because you were a bit red after that beach day. But
I'm red, but then I don't tan. It's just like red, and then just kind of goes back to this off-brand color.
Off-brand. Oh dear. Wine or vodka?
Wine. Come from wine
Wine.
country. And wine you can control as well. You kind of know how much, spirits you can very quickly go wrong, I feel.
High school or college?
Well, I'll go for it.
I might say college. Yeah, I think college.
College. I feel like you had a bit more choice around about sort of in terms of who you were surrounded by. So and there was
Yeah.
more stuff going on.
When you were doing your master's, Leon, was that distance? Like, were you doing it online or did you go in person?
No, it was meant to be in person, but then moved online halfway through, which was a shame. But it was actually meant, and some of it was in person, so we were on campus.
It was so cute when he graduated. We had his little picture up in Slack in our like previous company, and we were all just like congratulating him from afar. Like, you did a great job, Leon. Like, we love you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Working full time and spending much more time on the job than on the actual academics. But
Yeah. All right. Last two. Plants or pets?
Plants.
I'd say pets. But pets are a much bigger responsibility. But I love dogs.
Okay. Okay. Did you grow up with them?
Oh yeah, always had dogs throughout my whole life. Dream is just to buy some land somewhere in the mountains and just have like a dog sanctuary and put little like cabins and people can come and stay and play with the dogs.
Oh, that actually sounds like something that would do very well in Northern California. Just
It would. I'd
um,
raise my Series A.
the last one is bicycling or skateboarding.
Bicycling. I can't skateboard.
Yeah, I think bicycling too. Though I would say rollerblading if you gave me a choice.
Rollerblading is really cool. I can see like Paula rollerblade.
I used to figure skate, so it's not that different.
The when we were in Barcelona, Leon really wanted to go cycling, and then we looked at bikes. And they were just a little too high for Paula, and Leon was like, "No, you can ride them." And then Paula sits on it, and her feet don't reach the pedals, and she's just kicking at the pedals, and she's like, "Leon, you're stupid. Like, this would never work."
I did warn because I've done it once, but it's just like I need to like project myself off of like a curb to kind of like hope that I can hook my feet on. They're just not made for short people. It's not fair.
It's not. And Leon was very sad, so we ended up doing a little boat cruise instead. But it was still good, still good times. So the last thing I wanted to talk to you guys about was because when I was asking you to be on the podcast, you both were like, "I'm very private about my private life, and I would never talk about my private life." But I was just curious to know, like, what got you to this point where you've been like gatekeeping? I mean, it's true, right? You don't want to be vulnerable to everyone about everything, but I think it's also true of me because like I don't have Instagram. And this is because I don't want people to know where in the world I am and like what I'm doing. It started out as an insecurity probably in like high school when other Indian aunties in the community would be like reporting back to my parents about what nonsense I was up to. But like it kind of grew into I really like it when people have to ask me questions to know about me rather than like get an assumption for who I am based on photos. But I was just curious how you guys feel about it.
Well, I'll start in that I was being very sarcastic because I feel that I'm a massive overshare and that I just tell too many people too many things about my life. I don't know where that comes from, but
Yeah, I think I was actually being genuine. I think in terms of cultural background, I come from a fairly conservative culture where, in general, which I don't think is necessarily a good thing. It is quite reserved, and where you don't overshare because it's a case of you know not sort of assigning importance to what's going on in your life and you just want to tell everyone about it. But it's kind of you keep your business to yourself, and I think also depending on what you're sharing, there also has to be a certain level of trust. And I think some people sort of are very easy to take someone into their close circle. For me, it just takes a bit longer. But then when I do have someone that I really trust, I think it's incredible because then there's no doubt about it. So but it is something I've gotten better at over the years because you don't want to come off as like standoffish or deflecting all questions because then it seems like you're hiding something. So yeah, it's something I'm working on, and definitely something, as you grow up, as you see people from other cultures and how your own friends are around you, I think you also change quite a bit in that sense.
Yeah, I will say I've never found you standoffish, even when we weren't all that close. So I'll give you those brownie points. I will say that for me, like, I feel that I am relatively an open book, but usually by the time I'm sharing it with people, it's because I've already figured out how I feel about it, and I don't really have feelings about it anymore. I feel like in the moment, just like when I'm upset or whatever, like that gets shared with significantly less people. And when I say significantly less, it's like I must have been really in my feels just to tell somebody about it because if not, it's probably not getting shared. So I feel like there's that interesting kind of like dichotomy in my oversharing. By the time I'm telling you, I'm like, we've assumed it. That's not the word in Spanish, lo asumimos, but it doesn't work in English. We've like accepted it. We've moved on from it. We have figured out why we felt that way, but the like, I'm so doesn't happen quite as much.
The interesting thing is, like, in a professional context, I feel like a little bit of oversharing actually benefits you. Like, in my case right now, I'm looking for jobs. So, like, the more people I tell that I'm currently available for a job is, like, helpful in a professional networking context. But at the same time, you have to be, like, picky and choosy about, like, who you let know that you're, like, in a struggle moment in your life right now. Because I feel like so another thing that I think is okay to disclose is like the company that we were all working for ended up laying off most of its staff, and all three of us were like victims of this at different points, and it was just really tricky because like I don't know, like there is nothing to determine why one person was worth keeping in that job and why one other person wasn't. But then at one point we were all like, okay, we've all been like kicked out of this company, and we have to like restart and find a new goal in life again and like find new purpose. And it was also difficult because we got used to this really fun work environment. At least the way we made it for ourselves, I feel like you could have drowned at that work environment because it was so fast paced. But like having travel as a component and having like just really good people to work with, like every other person that I met, even if maybe their professional style wasn't something I aspired to be, I thought they were genuine people in like real life. And then it kind of intimidates me because like the next place I want to join, I want it to be that level of like camaraderie and vibes, but I don't know if I'll be so lucky again. So it's been a work in progress. Also, what do you guys work on now? I actually have a little clue as to where we all landed.
Yeah, I do short-term consulting work now for tech and sort of investment companies. And yeah, just to clarify for people who might not be familiar, it's kind of building systems and automations to help companies scale quickly, which is what I did at the company we used to work at. So I kind of kept that going, but I have been hesitant to take anything on full time. Definitely want to start my own company as the kind of next step. So, but also know once you do that, it's a lot of hard work and long hours. So for now, I'm kind of just keeping the wheels turning so that I can still travel and fly and do some fun projects. But in somewhere in the next year, that has to get a bit more serious.
Is the goal still to end up somewhere in Europe full time, or are you more open to other opportunities now?
I think so. I think there's still a lot of the world that I want to see, but
Paula's like Vietnam.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of places. Big difference between where you would visit and where you would live long term, but I think it is still Europe. Yeah, not super clear.
Yeah, I work like on a community team at a community-based startup that mostly targets GCs, so general counsels at tech firms. And I do a variety of things like anyone at a startup. I do some data stuff, I do some automation stuff, I do some like customer experience-y type stuff, like figuring out what like currently it's like what's the member journey and where do we tell them when and like what email should they be getting and why and how, and it's currently I mean like all we've all worked at companies where like everyone just sends whatever they want whenever they want. We're trying to scale back on that just a little bit.
I think it's interesting because like this is all relevant to where the tech industry is today, but 5 years from now, I don't know what it will all look like. Because I feel like even when I started at the previous company, I don't think that community management online was that interesting. And then being part of that like founder community was really cool. And then now we just see this like shift into all this scaling startups, but then also these startups failing very quickly because of financial reasons and whatnot. But it's interesting. Hopefully, we'll all have really cool things to work on 5 years from now. Yeah. But on that note, I wanted to thank you both so much for spending your Tuesday evening with me.
Of course. Thanks for the invite. Appreciate it.
We'll end on a quick high five. So till next time.